Hello. Oh my goodness. The live of the century and the internet goes down. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to bring Melissa back on. Goodness gracious. That was like, right in the middle of the absolute gold. Let's hope she jumps back in. Oh, guys. Oh, my gosh. That was like right in the middle of the piece of gold.
Sorry,
And you know
what sentence did you lose me?
Oh, and we're just about to talk about what outer course is. Everyone must have been like popcorn, ready to go. Anyway, so let me just recap because I think I completely lost the first part of our presentation, which, oh my gosh, hopefully you guys get something out of this. But so Melissa is a sexologist with RS Health here in Perth, and she's talking to us about some of the tips and tricks that you can use when you're going through fertility treatment and it's really challenging to your sexual health and your intimate relationship. And we just gotten to the point where we're like, okay, explain what this outer course is. So do you want to start again?
Sure. So basically, outer course is any type of intimacy that doesn't involve a penis in vagina. So it's all about, and I think we just simplify what sex is too much in heterosexual sex anyway, and we think about it as that. So I think in fertility treatment, particularly when there's times where you're not wanting to actually have intercourse, it's a really good way to still be connected intimately, and that might be by touching your partner in an intimate way. It might be oral sex. It might be using toys, like airwave toys or men's, toys, whatever it is. And there is a lot of toys out there that are fantastic for men now, not just women's toys that you can, and there's lots of couples toys. So I think it's need to think about these difficult times in our life when people are going through cancer or fertility treatment and things like that affect our sexuality as maybe an opportunity to change the script. So you wouldn't eat vanilla ice cream or whatever for the rest of your life every single day. You might mix it up every now and then. So maybe this is an opportunity to turn that difficult time into a time to change the script and try something you haven't tried before, because often couples get into the habit of doing the same thing all the time. So if you can't be having intercourse, I think trying solo sex, which is on your own, obviously, and outer course can be a really good idea. And also it's a way of maybe learning more about your partner's body that you didn't know before, and which bits you might find something that actually really turns them on that you never knew did before. So
Yeah. That's really cool. So just recapping, tips that people kind of can have if they're really challenged with their sexual health. The one thing that I really heard from you was fun. So, yes. Start to have some fun in your relation again. Take the roboticness out of the scheduling out of it. So that, and I love the idea of that. It's almost like a prolonged foreplay where you actually go out and do an activity that's got nothing to do with sex, but actually just really promotes that sort of intimate relationship.
I mean, if you ever look on someone on Tinder profiles, most people say they want someone with a sense of humor that likes doing outdoor things or reading or whatever it is. So when you go looking for your partner, you're not putting on your little Tinder profile, someone who loves sex and is doing it in bed all the time. Is always, what you're looking for is someone who you can have fun with. So I think it's about, when things become a bit humdrum, and they can do when you're trying to have a baby and it's a job rather than fun. It's about bringing the fun back in and remembering why you like each other and actually why you wanted to have a baby with this person in the first place, which might be that you get a good laugh with them, or there's things that you do with them that's really enjoyable. And I think you just need to concentrate on what goes on outside the bedroom in order to improve what goes on inside the bedroom and to be more connected.
Yeah. And like you said, you might just fall pregnant. And the other thing that I really heard was having a bit more of a glass half full attitude about the not being able to have intercourse when you want it or spontaneously.
Yeah, so I think it's about when we look forward to something and when something has a bit of scarcity, it becomes more valuable. So instead of looking at it as, I can't have sex today, even though today I've got a bit of a twinge because it's not the day that is right on the calendar that the doctor and the nurse have told me I can have sex. Look at it as, and tease each other about that. Hey, I really feel like it today. I really wish we could, but oh well, we can in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whenever it is. And use that to build anticipation like you would have when you were first dating, that you weren't going to see them until a couple of days' time, instead of it being frustration that you've got the chocolate bar there, but you can't eat it today.
Yeah. Love that. That's awesome. I'd never really thought about it before, but that, yeah, just almost like flipping your thinking. I love that.
Yeah, so I think I read a book once called Useful Beliefs, and I think it's a really good way of looking at things. Instead of looking at something as a negative or a positive, try and flip it on its head and look at, how can I use this situation usefully? And I think, you know, if you're mindful about your intimate times and you plan for them and you look forward to them, then, you know, this is great because you can actually use that as an advantage. It doesn't have to be a disadvantage. I'm seeing lots of my friends pop up in the chat here.
And so, where was I going with this thought? Oh, yeah. So let's say a couple are going through the process. They've started putting all of these tips and tricks that you've suggested into play, but they're still finding, you know, the guy might have some issues with premature ejaculation or just not being able to sustain an erection. She might be just finding the whole concept of having penetrative sex like anxiety provoking. It hurts. I don't get good lubrication because I'm just really not into this. What would you be suggesting is their next step? Do they come and see someone like yourself?
Yeah, definitely, because we could definitely help with making suggestions around that. And, you know, I think the big thing from a male point of view, if the problem is that they're anxious and they've got performance anxiety, they may never have had any problem with their erections before in their life until this time. And it's erectile dysfunction, you know, it can be because of a physical problem, but is very often because of that mind-body connection. And I think, you know, we can override that with medication for a very short period of time. And I think we shouldn't be worried to do that because the medication for these things is really safe and it's going to give you your confidence back and just help you get that erection and maintain it when you need it. Because, you know, as men age, it's not flip the switch so easily. And I think guys really feel as though it's a real like whack to their manhood if things aren't working, and that they shouldn't feel anxious and they shouldn't feel these things. But there's a lot of pressure. And there's a very lot of pressure when you're undergoing fertility treatment. So don't just, and if you continue just to get frustrated and don't go and get help, then that's not a good thing. It's just going to get worse. So sometimes you just need a little bit of help and even just talking about it and maybe saying to your partner, like, you know, this is feeling really robotic for me. You know, and for a woman, you know, it takes a woman at least 25 minutes to get aroused. So for a woman to go, oh look, I'm ovulating, or I've had this shot today, or whatever it is, and it's time, we've got to do it now, and then just do it, that's not going to be enjoyable. So I think this whole thing of planning for it, you know, being relaxed, have a bath together, have a laugh together, and then spend some time actually, I suppose, worshipping each other before you get into the idea of trying to have sex. I think you're going to be a lot more successful.
Yeah. And if women are having issues with, say, lubrication, what are your recommendations?
Yeah, well, I think, and you would probably know more about this than I would, but my understanding is that using a good quality water-based lube is fine in this instance. Yes. And I think that's the trick, is to make sure you get a good quality lubricant, you know, like, and I think the idea here is for the man not to feel offended that their partner is not as lubricated as they normally are, because they're anxious too, and that's a female's response to that. And for the woman not to feel like, God, what's wrong with me? My body's failing me. And just having a decent, good quality lube is often enough that things feel so much nicer that even if you didn't feel like it, you might. But it's never going to feel good if it feels like sandpaper. So, that's, you know, the help is out there. And I just think people are often really embarrassed to ask for help. you know, most people will have one of these issues at some stage in their life, and it's okay to ask for help. You just need to know where to go to.
Yeah. And so acknowledge this as this is a common thing that can happen as part of the fertility journey, talking about it with each other, trying some of your tips and tricks, talking about it with your fertility specialist. They may be able to give you some great advice that they've learned off amazing clinical nurse practitioners. And then if all else fails, come and see Melissa.
Yeah.
Is that a good plan?
Definitely. And the other thing as well, just as a side note, so not very many women are turned on by visual pornography, but because most women are more, they'll be more turned on by reading erotica. So I think the other thing, I mean, this is why 50 Shades of Grey was such a popular book, even though in my opinion it was written badly. But appalling.
Not a great piece of literature.
It was a really popular book because it brought erotica into the mainstream. And there's a lot of really beautiful erotica out there. And I always suggest to my patients, get a Kindle, because you don't want to be sitting on the bus on the way to work with a funny picture on the front of your book. Yeah. No one knows what you're reading.
Or by the pool at the local hotel.
Yeah, that's right. No one knows what you're reading if it's a Kindle. But if you go on Kindle and look up erotica, there is some really nice erotica, and a lot of women will do much better reading and using their own imagination than visual cues like pornography. So sometimes that's just enough to get things flowing and making you feel a bit more like it. And so the other thing that I haven't said yet is just, or maybe I did and it got cut off, but just really remember why you want to have a baby with this person. Because the reason you want to have a baby with this other person is the reason you want to make love to them. And if you can try and remember that, then I think it brings you back to what you're doing it all for and take away that roboticness of it all.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Thank you so much. Is there any last minute information that you want to share with everyone?
I think I've pretty much covered it. Yeah, I just think just do something different. If you always do it in the bedroom and you don't have other teenage kids or things running around that know what's going on, try it somewhere different for a change. And I think it's about surprising each other and making sure that you keep having fun together. I think fun is more important than anything else. Like having a good time together. You don't ever feel like making love to someone that you haven't had fun with. And if you're a woman and you're with a guy who's just like feeling under a lot of pressure and is a bit grumpy, that's not very sexy. And if you're a guy and you're with a woman who's hormonal and grumpy, that's not very, and just, or every time where you're talking about having sex, it's all about having a baby, that's not much fun either. So I think it's important that you make each other feel like you're there because you really love that person and you want to have a baby with them because that is an expression of your love rather than a baby being the outcome.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. Where can everybody find you?
So I've got a website, which is rshealth.com.au. I've also got a YouTube channel, which is RS Health Clinic, and Instagram, which I'm really bad at, but I'm trying to get better. So, but if they go to my website, they can see we've got 10 clinics now around Western Australia, and we do Zoom consults as well.
Yeah, and she's got a great podcast called The Penis Project.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Remember we did that just recently?
We did just do that recently. We've got over 50,000 subscribers now, so it's very exciting.
Yay! Well, we love what you're doing. We think you are making a huge impact in the community, both in men's health, but also in women's health. And I definitely know you have a great place in the fertility journey for many of our couples. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, thank you. And I'm really sorry that we dropped out halfway through. Never happened before, but there's a first for everything. I will drop your handle into the comments section afterwards and some website details so everybody can find you. Thank you, Melissa, so much for sharing your knowledge. And guys, stay well. I hope to see you on Wednesday night for another amazing guest here on our little Feb Fertility webinar series on Instagram. Thanks heaps, guys. See you soon.
Thank you very much for having me. See you.
Pleasure. Bye.